Great. Welcome to CS350 operating system. Let me put it here. OS. This is the week number 7, Wednesday, February 28th. And this session is being recorded and will be posted. But just a reminder that all Zoom recordings are removed. I don't think the links are removed, but the content is removed. So you think it's there, but you won't be able to watch after a month. So just if you need to rewatch, then make sure you watch it again, especially for those who are not here for a particular class. I just want you to know that it's gone after 30 days. And also, just the usual attendance, if you can private chat me with your name and ID, that'd be great. Before we start, is there any questions and comments anybody want to ask or state? All right. I think that I take it as a things going okay. Let me bring up the Blackboard and then talk about these guys. There was an announcement that I think I posted. So there's a Career Internship Expo announcement. So if anybody's interested, take a look at that flyer and take advantage of what they can offer if it comes up. Right here. So there's an internship for the summer. So I'll take a look at them and see what they get. Okay. Let's see here. If you go on to week number 7, this week's topic is deadlock. So there are 3 assignments: the Zybook, the worksheet, and then the lab. Okay. So I'll let you do the Zybook here. And so I'm going to do the worksheet first, and then I'll do the lab. Okay. Next week, week 8, we'll be talking about main memory. Okay. I'll put up the lab when I get a chance. And then week 9, there's a spring break, and we don't have a school on that week. Okay. So let's do the worksheet. And if you go up to the instruction material as usual, here is the deadlock worksheet. So if you click on that, I think you'll get this one. Let's see. I already downloaded, so you should see this one. Okay, and there are 10 questions. Okay, I'm not going to go look at this one. I'm going to bring up the one with the answers on. There you go. Before I do this, I also want you to take a look at the PowerPoint. So if you click on this one right here, I did one, you should see this guy. And there are some slides in here that I should explain. So let me go through the slides a little bit, and then I'll come back to this one. This is from the last term, so it has some old information on them, but maybe worth talking about it. So this is kind of old, so I should kind of get rid of this. There's a operating system meetup group, and then there's some student memberships that you may be interested in doing. This, slide is old, so I'm gonna get rid of that. I don't know why I have this one. And then there's some deadlock examples and stuff, so I'm gonna go over that, okay? Okay, so let's go through this one by one. We did talk a little bit about what a deadlock is from last time. So I don't need to rehash the whole thing again, but I do want to give, let me get rid of this video to reduce the bandwidth here. Okay. But we should begin with what a deadlock is with a working definition. And so this one sort of the exact definition may be a little bit different depending on which book you read and which people that you talk to. But basically, it is a standstill situation, but particularly frozen. Okay, I mean it can be standstill and things going on, but if it's not moving forward toward the completion in a reasonable pace, and then it's a deadlock. And what I mean by a reasonable pace is anything less than longer than 1 millisecond. Okay. But anyway, so this is a sort of the definition that I want to give. Okay. We did talk about the 5 dining philosophers, where they sit around and eat and think, and that's pretty much it. But for them to eat, they need 2 forks or 2 chopsticks or whatever in order to eat. If they have only one, then they can't eat. So in this kind of scenario, there could be a deadlock where everyone grabs one. This guy would be grabbing that one, this guy with that one, this guy that, this guy that, and this guy that. And everyone is waiting for the other one, the other fork. But nobody is letting it go because everybody's waiting, right? So that would be a deadlock situation. Yeah. And we're going to use this notation, but I'll come back to this one. But I just wanted to show you that this is sort of the way that we use diagram instead of these guys. Okay. Here's a typical questions that says, what are the 4 conditions that are required for deadlock to occur? Deadlock doesn't occur, all by itself. Deadlock occurs when certain things happen. And right here, mutual exclusion is sort of the standard, a multi-core, multi program, and architect, the concurrent processes, pretty much as in the modern computer. This is what we do. And preemption means so no preemption, I should say, this means that, for example, you interrupt or the current process is interrupted or preempted by another process. And so an example of this would be let me see if I can draw this. We kind of looked at this before. Let's see, do that. Then, right, there's this one. So when we had this, oh, not this one. Make it a little bit. So when we have a process table here and the time, right? So if you have P1, P2, and so on and so forth, maybe this would be T1, T2, and on. So when we look at the diagram here, if P1 is moving along, right? Like that. And then if the P2 comes, if the strategy was a shortest job first, and let's say this is a 5 here, at T is equal to 1, it only needs 4 more, right? But if this right here is a 3, and 3 is shorter than 4, then this P1 gets interrupted, right? Stops. And then P2 goes in here. And then at 2, there's only 2 left, but this 4 just stays. So it continues on for 1, 2, 3, right? So like that, 3, 4. And so P2 goes. And then only then, if there's no other process, then P1 comes back. So this P2 is breaking in is called a preempt. Okay. So is that deadlock happens when that doesn't happen. In other words, there's no preemption going on. Okay? And this hold and wait means when a process there's a process and let's say there's a resource here, and let's say this is a printer, right? If the printer is assigned to the process 1, okay, we'll just call this R1, then P1, so what this means is resource 1 is assigned to P1. And when that happens, right, when that happens, P2 is holding onto resource 1. Okay. If P3, I said P1, right? If P2 comes along and wants the resource 1 also, right? There's a P2 and it's kind of looking for that. Then because the resource 1 is not only assigned to this, but P1 will be holding, okay? And it's not letting it go. Yeah, so that's what we mean that something is holding, other one has to wait until this is finished. Yeah, because we can't share it, right? But most importantly, deadlock occurs when there is a circle. So remember this word. We'll be going back to this word circle a lot today. Okay, so like for example, here's a circle right here. Okay, so that's a deadlock. So if there is a circle, if there is no circle, then there is no deadlock for sure. Okay, if there is a circle, I should say not cycle, then there is a deadlock. But what it really means is there's a potential deadlock. But by definition, so the definition of deadlock is if there is a potential deadlock, then that means it's a deadlock. Okay. Because it's going to happen pretty quick. Okay. So these four items here, factors, are the conditions for deadlock, but most important one is right here, the circle. Okay, that's pretty much all you have to know. Okay. Now, before we talk about the deadlock situations, let's just kind of visit and ask, what are the three responses if the deadlock happens? Okay, so let me share with you the PowerPoint. There's a little better. So here's the three general types of responses. One is to ignore. If the deadlock happens, if you're totally ignoring, you wouldn't even know that it is happening, right? But the basic idea is ignore it, okay? And let whatever happens happen. Another option is to avoid or prevent deadlock from happening in the first place. That sounds like a pretty good, proactive, approach. But this doesn't. It doesn't work 100%. There's no way to prevent a deadlock 100%. Okay, but you can still, minimize or discourage deadlock from happening, and you can prevent a lot of it. Okay? But the third option is to, not do so much about avoiding or preventing, but detecting it, right? Because ignoring it, you're not even detecting it. Here, detect and recover. So you don't want to spend a lot of time here trying to prevent it happening, which may not happen, for a long time, or may not be such a bad idea, not devastating. But if you are just looking to see if you can detect it, and then kind of concentrate on how to recover or get rid of it, right? So there are these threes. So those are the three. Okay. But now going back to the deadlock, this question is asking, what is a RAG and what is it used for? Well, it stands for a resource allocation graph, and this is how it looks. Okay, RAG right here. That's why I put this drawing up here, kind of like that. Okay? And it is used to predict or detect a deadlock situation. Okay. So let me explain a little bit about the resource allocation graph. It has three, I guess, several parts, I should just say. There's a list of all the processes, like in here, it is a process 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, and they are always drawn with a circle, okay? And then there are resources with R's, and there are those could be like a printer, a file, memory, and stuff like that, right? Things that process needs to make progress. Okay? And they're designated with R's, with the subscript, and the small dots or dot in the or these resources are represented with a square or a rectangle, but the small dot in there represents how many. So if R1 is a printer, then there's only one printer there. If let's say, for example, this R2 is a file, then there are 2 copies of the file, and they're exactly identical. Okay. And so whether they are files or memory or whatever, that's how many that there is, it's ready to be used. And then the third element is the arrow. So, and there are 2 types of arrows, I should say, right? So I should kind of give it a. So if it's an arrow from process to a resource, what that means is that PX is waiting for our resource, that particular resource. Okay, so let me just highlight here. Waiting. Now for the arrow from the resource to a process, right? What that means is that resource is assigned to that process. Okay, so looking at this RAG, what this means here, the P1 is waiting for that resource 1 to become available. Why? Because this resource 1 is assigned to the P2. Okay, so that's how you read them. And then P2 is waiting for resource 3, but then resource 3 is assigned to P3, and then P3 is waiting for one of the two resources in R2. It could be it could become available when P1 is finished processing or P2 is processed. Okay, so either one of them will be happy for P3. Okay? So does that sort of make sense? Let me kind of pause there. Yeah, so this is not too bad, but just gotta keep up with it. I don't want you to get too bogged down on the little details of how they what the convention is. You know, the resources are usually rectangle, square. Process is the circles, and then you draw the arrows, and then make sure that you put the dots. You know, how many ever you have. But some books will use you know, instead of little circle dots there, they may use a small squares inside. So this one, there are 4 of them. And then notice the way that arrow is drawn. Here, the process is waiting for this, so it is waiting at the door. Okay? It doesn't go in. Now, when you draw the resource, you draw the dot from the dot inside the box to the process. Okay, you don't draw them from the outside, but if you don't follow that, it's okay. You know, I don't want to be too nitpicky here, but some books will be a little bit too very picky about that. Okay, so that's what a RAG is. This is the diagram, and this diagram is used to detect or predict a deadlock. Okay? So let's do some of them. Okay, so I'm going to. So somebody's going to give you this. Okay, like in a test or something. And this is also on the PowerPoint. And the question is there a deadlock? Yeah, so that's a question. Well, how do we do this? How do we find out? We find out by using another tool, not a RAG, but what's called a wait for graph. Okay, so let me show you how that is done. Oops. I'm just gonna move this guy here, and maybe make that like that, and then do a new. So the first thing that you want to do is to let's see here. So given a RAG, it says find oops, deadlock, yes or no, right? Yes or no. So the strategy is to the step is to convert the RAG to the wait for graph. Okay. So how do we do that? So here, what we do is you, number one, just follow the process. That's it. Okay. And what this means is get rid of all the resources. Okay, so I'm going to draw P1 here, and then P2 here, and then P3 here. Okay. And so you follow. P1 is waiting for R1, but it is really not waiting for, or it's kind of waiting for R1, but this will become available when the P2 is done, right? So P1 is actually waiting for P2 to finish. Okay. So P1 is basically waiting for P2 to finish, and that's how you draw it. You get rid of the resource. Okay. So follow the RX only. And then P2 is waiting for R3, but R3 is assigned to P3. So P2 is really waiting for P3. Okay. So this guy is really waiting for this one. Okay. And then P3 is waiting for R2, but P3 is really waiting for either P1 or P2, right? Either one of them is okay. It's not waiting for both. It's waiting for either or. And if both happens, that's okay too. But it's waiting for one of these two guys. So P2 is either waiting for this guy or this guy, right? But you have to draw both because it's not like it doesn't exist, right? So this is how you, this right here is the wait for graph, right here. Okay. So you look at this. So as everybody kind of clear about how I drew this wait for graph? If there's a question, let me know. Okay, so I'll take that as all okay. Now, so once you have this graph, you ask, is there a circle or no? Well, obviously, when you look at the graph, there is a circle here, right? And then overall, let me draw the other one. Maybe like green. There is this circle right here, right? So there's two circles. It doesn't matter how many circles you got. If there is a circle, so that means a deadlock. Okay. So look for the circles, a circle or more. So does that make sense? Does that sound okay? All right. It's not too hard. Just need a little practice, right? So let's try. This one's a little bit better because I kind of, I purposely drew it side by side because I kind of wanted to pretend that I didn't know what I was doing. But usually that's how you want to draw because you want to draw the P's according to how they look like in the rag. So anyway, so let's do another one. Well, I guess I'll just go down the line. So how do you recover from the deadlock, right? Did we have a question here? Oh, so here's a ignore, avoid, detect, and recover. But how do we recover? I guess we'll do that. So if the deadlock happens, like as in this example here, how do we recover? But the answer is basically you just kill the processes. Okay, and that's the only, pretty much the only way. There are other ways, but it's really not worth the time or energy to figure out. Okay, and in terms of getting rid of the processes, this is generally done, right? So here's a generally done. Get rid of all the processes in a deadlock. So get rid of P1, 2, 3 altogether. Or you may say, well, that seems a little dramatic or drastic. Well, then there's another option, and another option is to, I mean, if you wait, it'll never get resolved because that's by definition is a deadlock, right? So what you do is you can get rid of one process at a time. So you look at this and say, well, I don't know which one I like or don't like. So maybe I'll figure out, can I get rid of this one or that one or that one? And you kind of evaluate, right? And try to get rid of one that'll break the cycle or the circle, right? And then if you have two circles, then you probably have to get rid of two, but sometimes you get rid of one and it solves all of them. But the idea is to get rid of one process, a minimal number of process to get your system out of the deadlock. So here is second option. But this here is waste of takes a lot of time and maintenance. Oops. Cost. Yeah, I guess that'd be okay. So it takes time and then cost. So it might be just better to say, you know what, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to prevent it, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to recover, figure out which one's the best way. I'm just going to restart. Okay, so that's pretty much the way people. And an example of this is when, example here is when your PC is frozen. What do? You can, try to get rid of one application or something, but but that may not work, right? So what people usually do is just reboot, right? And that usually solves the problem. So that's pretty quick and easy. But that's typically the way that people deal with the deadlocks. Now, to answer the question about if you want to get rid of one at a time, you can use these guys here. Maybe you can assign processes according to their priority. Then you don't get rid of that one because that's important. Or maybe you want to get rid of the one that is kind of hogging a lot of the resources. And by getting rid of that, it'll allow other processes to move through. But the basic idea is, get rid of the target process if you're doing one by one, that costs you the least, right? But those are the strategies. Okay, so here, let me see if I can get rid of this one. Why don't you guys take a moment to do this one? Okay, number 8. So here's given the RAG, right? And then, yeah, so does it have a deadlock or not? So I'll give you maybe just 2 minutes or 2-3 minutes, and then we'll go through together, okay? So give it a try. All right, maybe, okay, you guys doing okay? All right, well, let's see. So let's kind of do this here together. Let me bring this guy up a little bit. So I'm going to look at P1. And what is P1 waiting for? P2, right? So P1 is waiting for P2. And what is P2 waiting for? It's waiting for P3. And what is P3 waiting for? It's waiting for P2. Okay? So it's waiting for that as well. And then it's also waiting for P1, right? Right here. So P1. And then P2 here looks like it's also waiting for P4, right? So this guy is also waiting for P4. Okay. Did we get everything? So P1, P2, P2, P4, P2, P3, and P3, P2, and P3, P1. Okay. So did everybody get this one? Yeah, cool. So so this is the wait for graph. Okay? And so the question is there a deadlock? Okay. Well, there is, right? Because there is a circle right here, right? There's a big circle. And then there's also a small circle, right? So the answer is there is a deadlock. All right. Here, based on your graph, is the system currently in a deadlock? Yes. If the cost of terminating any process is the same, which process would you recommend we terminate? So here, let me get rid of these guys here. So here's the deadlock right here. Which one would you get rid of? P1, P2, P3, P4. If you know, we could get rid of the whole thing. Get rid of P3. Let's see here. So if we get rid of, let's see, where's my, if you get rid of this one right here, okay. Let me, maybe instead of that. Yeah, I guess if we get rid of this, then what's going to happen? We don't have this anymore, right? And we don't have this anymore. Then I guess we don't have a circle, right? So we should be okay. So I guess that could be one option. What about any other ones? Oh, oh no. What happened? Oh, yeah, maybe two as well. So let's see if we can get rid of this one. Let's see. Instead of getting rid of this one, if we get rid of this one right here, right? If we get rid of this one, then this, we have this one. I'm not sure if this is the way it's going to go or if it's going to go that way. Well, this is not going to happen, right? Because this is not waiting for that. So we have this one here, but we still, and this wouldn't happen because there's not that, but we still have this circle, right? So maybe getting rid of the P2 would not get rid of all the circles. So we wouldn't need to get rid of P2. We just need to get rid of P3. Okay. So whatever it is, that should be okay. If we get rid of P4, we still have the circle, so that doesn't do anything. Okay. So now it may not always be this case. You may get rid of some, and you may not never be able to get rid of the lock or the deadlock sufficiently. So you know, it's kind of like try and give it a try and see if that works out. Okay. So here, terminate a 2 to 3, right? This guy maybe, right? Is one way, but I think just getting rid of the process altogether. P3 should be much better. So maybe I should get rid of this guy. Okay. But anyway, so and then they ask you to draw. So if you draw this guy, it would be just P1 to P2. Yeah, this is probably not the right way. If we get rid of this P3, then all you have to do yeah, so this will this is still a deadlock, so this would still be, yeah, I don't know if you get rid of this guy here, what would this would just not happen, right? And you wouldn't have this, so you just have this guy right here. Okay. So that's not a deadlock, so that should be okay. So that's not the right one. Okay. Anyway, so maybe this is not right either. But so you just draw this part right here, okay, if you get rid of P3. I think that's the only one. So I'll let you do number 9. Here's one more example that you can do, okay? But let me do the number 10, and then we'll take a break. Okay? So let me get rid of this here, quick. And then do that, start another one. Oh. Okay, switch. Ah. Whatever. Anyway, so here's a question that I wanted to tell you with some mixed feelings. And the question here is, if someone gives you a number of processes, okay, the system has whatever processes, and they tell you how many units of resources each of those processes need, they want to know how many resources total, okay, do we need so that no deadlock will occur. Okay, so let me write that here a little bit. Translate that for you. So given, oops. So is a number of process, and then resources each process needs, right? That's what they use. And what they want to find out is how many total resources do we need? Okay. So this here is really a business question, right? It's an IT question too, right? Plus the business question. they want to know how much of resource do I need to provide for you to avoid a deadlock. Okay. And the solution is to use this equation here. There must be the total amount of resources you need is either equal to or greater than P times N minus 1 plus 1. And so the P here is total number of processes, and N is number of resources each P needs. Okay. So in this problem here, they told you that there was 3 processes, right? And then they also told you that each process here needs 2. Okay. So this is the P, this is the N. Okay. So this becomes 3 times 2 minus 1 plus 1. So that's a 3 times 1 plus 1, which is a 4. Okay. So if there is if the system has 3 P's, P1, P2, P3, if there is 4 resources, there's resource 1, 2, 3, 4, then this system right here have no deadlock. Okay. So this is the formula that we want to use. Does that kind of make sense? But I want to tell you at the same time that this doesn't work. So let me just do another page here and say the formula does not work in real life. Okay. Why? Because number one, P is we don't know. When you were using like this process hacker, for example, which I can start right now, right? So there are these processes here. So, if you look at the process ID and sort them, there are 27,000 processes, okay? And so you may be tempted to think, well, okay, there are 27,556. But if I start another, let's say, what's something simple that I could start? Maybe I'll start a VirtualBox. Maybe I'll start a SQL Server. Now the number of process changes, right? So this here is uncertain. Okay, so this guy is not that we don't know, right? But it changes. Okay, and so the formula changes, or the value changes. Number two, in terms of N, we don't have this too also changes, right? How many printers would you need? Well, it kind of depends on how many people are running and what application is running, but also you need a different type, right? Different types of resources. And here in this formula is assuming they're all the same resources, right? But they're not. Okay? So because the P and N are changing, the R changes also, and so we don't know. Okay? If anybody asks you this, have you ever used this formula here? Then you can say, yeah, and it's a good attempt, but it's not going to, it only works on a very simple environment, but in the typical real life, it's a feeble attempt. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for you. All right, let's see. Any questions so far what I shared on the worksheet? Okay. Then why don't we take a 10-minute break? We'll come back and then we'll finish off the let's see, the lab. Okay, so we'll come back this to the worksheet here. We're finished. Can we see the number 10? Yes. And this guy right here. So each process gets one resource to begin with. There'll be 3 resources total. I look at it 3. Yeah. No data. Okay, so I'll leave this up here a little bit. And when I bring this guy here, so let's take a break. Be back. Let's say 7:05. How's that? Okay. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to pause the record. Okay. All right, you guys are still can see my screen here, okay? All right, sounds good. So let's do the lab. So here's the deadlock lab. And here's the instruction here for how to do the lab. So if you click on this guy here, let me make it a little bit bigger. And so if you click on instruction, you should see, okay, right here. Let me get rid of this here. So this is what you have to do. And so basically, it's only one page, and this is a solution to the dining philosopher situation where there could be a deadlock, right? And so what I'd like you to do is to, where's my cursor? Basically, get the code, paste it on to an online compiler, and run. And I'd like you to observe the output and make sure that everyone is eating and thinking, all 5 of them, okay? And then take a screenshot, something like this, and then just submit. So this should be a very quick, easy program, okay? So let me run that steps for you. There's a code on the Blackboard. And in here, there are the same program in 2 different codes, right? 2 different languages. Here's a code in C. So if you click on this one, here it is, okay? So this is the code in C language. You can also run this in Python language. So if you click on this one right here, you will see, let's see. Oh, hold on a second. Let me take a quick picture. But yeah, anyway, so you can do either way. So I'm gonna grab the question here. So you can run this anywhere you like, but I seem to have a good easiest time with this tutorialpoints.com. So if I'm going to use the C code, then I'm going to go to this one, and it's already open. So I'm going to click on this one anyway. So click. It'll take me to here, Online C compiler. And what I'll do is I just clean this up, grab the C program. I just copy it from top to bottom, copy, and then this one is also there. So maybe I'll get rid of that. To the C program here, and then you just paste it. If you're using tutorial, sometimes it helps to click on this beautify. It'll format your program a little bit nicer. And then if you execute, it'll start to run. So as you can see, philosopher 0 is eating, 2 is eating, 0 is eating, or thinking, 2. So kind of like that. So what I like you to look for here is, does this program freeze? Right? And then is everyone seem to be eating and thinking all together, right? So you want to see all the numbers, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the numbers are here. And then for each number, you want to make sure that that person is thinking as well as eating, right? So kind of take a look at it for a while and make sure that is happening, okay? Because we don't want to have any starvation or deadlock situations. And basically all you have to do is to just take a screenshot of this. So something like, I'll take a screenshot here, new, like that, over here, and just kind of underline what you're doing, and then that should be okay. All right, so that's basically all you have to do. I tried to give you, let's do the Python. So let me grab all this here. And if I was to do the Python one, also go there. This is Python. So I'm going to get rid of that, paste it up here, make it look a little bit more, oops, oh, what happened? Maybe it doesn't do that well. Let me grab it again. Let's see. What's going on here? Here. Yeah, I'm just going to execute straight. So if I do that, yeah, this is what I thought it should be like this. So you probably want to get rid of this guy here. And then if you run, there's, same thing's happening here. There's philosophers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is, so I see all of them. And then it can kind of try to figure out if 0 is eating, 0 is thinking, 1 is eating, 1 is thinking. So you can kind of like that, right? And then you just take a screenshot of this. Okay. So I put some explanation here as to let's see. I think I only did it for the C programming here. What I'm doing, I gave you some outline and what each one of them is doing. But this is not a programming class, so I don't want to go into too much detail of, going through the whole thing. If you're interested, you can take a look at my notes and see if that makes some sense to you. But the main goal of this is for you to see that we can use semaphores, but basically we are going to allow the philosopher to pick up both chopsticks if they're available. If there's only one available, we're not going to pick it up. Okay, so that way whenever somebody picks up, which will be two, then he will be able to eat, okay? You don't wanna pick one up, only if one of them is available, cause that will, you may get stuck. So, so this is kind of avoiding it, right? All right, so does that sort of make sense of what I'm asking you to do? Okay, all right, sounds good. I will clean up, but make sure that with the Python, you get rid of this here. So I'll fix that, shortly after we finish the class. But let's see. So basically what we went over today is to, talk about the deadlock. We went through the worksheet and then we went through the lab, okay? Next week is I don't know if I went over the next week, but we'll be talking about the memory. And then week after that is a spring break. Okay. All right, sounds good. Is there any other questions anybody want to ask? All right, if not, well, have a good rest of the evening and the weekend, and I'll see you next week. Okay. All right, have a good one. Okay. I'll pause the